Um, so I have the honor of being able to give very brief introductions for our 4 panel members that we have here today, and then I'll give each of you a chance to introduce yourselves with anything further that you'd like to share about the work that you're doing with the organizations you're representing. So thank you so much to the 4 of you for being here. We are really, really lucky today. So the first panelist we have is Nadana Carter. She's been an organizer with the Chicago mental health movement since 2009, and she coordinates mental health education workshops and events. She's been a consumer at the mental health clinics for 4 years, and the goal of her involvement is to make mental health and mental illness into something that people recognize, acknowledge, and treat in public mental health clinics. Nadana and members of the mental health movement also just started the Heal Chicago campaign. They're working with church groups and community groups to deal with the root causes of Chicago violence and anger. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next to Nadana, we have Marlon Chamberlain. Marlon is one of the core leaders of the group Force, which is fighting to overcome records and create equality. He was released from federal prison on May 29, 2012 after serving a 10-year prison sentence. Marlon and the other Force members recently celebrated the passing of Bill HB 3061, a bill that will seal the records of nonviolent offenders. Force is currently working on an employment campaign that would stop corporations from discriminating against people with records. Marlon is a student in Harold Washington College, and he's pursuing a degree in social work. Thank you for being here. And then next we have Johnny Walton. Johnny is an expert on prison reform and prison conditions from serving over 45 years in the Illinois prison system. His last 5 years served was at the TAM Supermax prison. Johnny is working now to use his experiences as an ex-gang member to better his community and to turn it off of the destructive path that it's on. An articulate speaker, he travels all over to speak about abuses within the prison system and the billions of dollars that could be saved with reform and community involvement. He hopes his experience and involvement will shine some light on the important subject of prison reform. So thank you for being here, John. And next we have Daryl Cannon. Daryl Cannon served 24 years in prison, and he spent the last 9 at TAM Supermax. He came home in 2008, and he's been diligently working and employed in a variety of jobs since then. He's also an organizer with TAM's Year 10, so that was one of the articles that we read about for today. And Daryl is also a supervisor with Ceasefire in Woodlawn, and he was sharing with me that the success of the Ceasefire project there has been very exceptional, especially since he came on as a supervisor. Daryl, thank you so much for being here too.
Yes, ma'am. The mental health movement has been working for 4 years to make public mental health public. We recognize that especially African American males are not being represented in the public mental health clinics because the only 3 that the city had, they fired. The problem with public mental health clinics is that there's 1, not enough of them, and 2, they do not represent the clientele that needs the services.
I would say that just being a part of and a member of Force is just about creating a voice and helping people that don't think that what they have to say matters is giving us a platform to basically speak and hear and have our voices heard. So that's been exciting for me because I was kind of ignorant to the legislative process of how bills were created and passed. And being a part of Force, I've been able to travel to Springfield and actually see how from the start to finish we created a bill and pushed and organized to have it passed, and that was exciting. So.
Yes, I'm also a member of the TAM's Year 10 committee. We've traveled, like I say, we've done a lot in the to correct some of this torture that's in the system. We've traveled all over the state. We've been to the state legislatures and testified in front of committees about the mental abuse, the torture, the incarceration, and different other things. My thing is, I gotta try to grasp everything and put it in perspective. And that comes from how this thing started, incarceration, what it's doing to each one of us mentally, what it's gonna, you know, the problem and the solution to the problem. Try to keep some of our children from going through these same cycles that we went through. So me and Daryl and myself, we have been blessed enough to, like I said, come before people and bring it to you and let you know this is what it came from. This is what it is now. You know, see, because like I said, economics, this is a billion-dollar industry. We know, because like I was telling people, we know from the fact that inmates used to do all the work. Now they tell you, you better not do nothing. The unions got it now. And the inmates just didn't show.
When it comes to mental, physical, psychological, Daryl Cannon's been through it all. The present time, I'm the supervisor for ceasefire, and my beat consists of Woodlawn, two of the most violent areas in the city of Chicago on the south side. And since I've been supervising, since there has been a ceasefire in Woodlawn, we have decreased homicides 100%. I haven't had a homicide in my two districts in over 9 months. I've only had 3 or 4 shootings in terms of shots fired but nobody hit. What we do is an ongoing process. It's not easy. Since I've been there, I've gotten my jaw broke. I had surgery a few months ago to have a plate placed in my jaw on the right side. This came from my job. This came from me being in the middle of Group A and Group B to stop the violence, and a fight broke out, and I ended up getting hit with a chair that broke my jaw in 3 places at the top. But still, that has not diminished my passion to do the very best I can to bring some sanity to our communities, to decrease this violence. Now, ceasefire can't be everywhere at all times. We work with any and every organization that sends me an email, flyer, or anything in Woodlawn. And if you go in Woodlawn, people will tell you that ceasefire is a blessing there, because we're there 7 days a week. We're there at nighttime. We're there when the police are not around, you know. But here again, I would not attempt to deceive you in thinking that we're the solution to all problems, because we're not. We're now into a new phase where we're dealing with domestic violence, which is in fact a disease. It's sometimes handed down from family to family, from generation to generation. So we're expanding what we do. We're trying to be proactive in stopping the violence before it starts, but we're now also learning now about the mental conditions that people go through, and we're now just beginning to have training concerning that. My sister here brought up something when we were standing there that was truly inaccurate, and I had to correct her on that, and saying, please don't stigmatize all of us because some of us were not in tune, or some of us didn't do this or that. It's times that we don't know that a church group or organization may be wanting to do this protest or that protest. If we were in tune with it, as far as in my area, anything that the community want to do to better the community, then I'm all for it. You can count me and my entire staff in that. In other areas, they do what they're supposed to do. They do what they feel is best. You know, so whether they get involved with this group or that group, I don't know. You know, I'm not responsible for that, but please know that I'm a victim of John Burge. I still have a suit pending now. I was released from prison after doing almost 24 years because the state's attorney's office went into court and said that, okay, look, we're dismissing all charges against Darrell County. Now, since I've been home, people ask me, do I hate the police? And I would tell them quickly that I would never in life stand before anyone and say, I hate all police officers because of what a small fraction of people did to me that was police officers. So again, my mindset is such that I deal with people for who they are. I deal with people on a personal basis, day to day. Anything I can do to facilitate peace, anything I can do to facilitate education, that's what I'm about.
For those that don't know, we lost 6 public mental health clinics last year, and they were in communities that served entire families. Grandchildren, children, parents, grandparents were being served, as I said, whole families. Woodlawn and Auburn Gresham were 2 that the impact was great. We had people that once had therapists, they had nowhere to go. Talk therapy is probably as important, if not more important, than drugs. And when you lose talk therapy, especially with someone that relates to you, and as I said, we had no African American male therapist. In Woodlawn, it was especially important because there was a man named Stephen Dyson. And Mr. Dyson was somebody that if you were walking down the street and you saw him, you'd ask him, can you help him? And sometimes he'd actually sit down and talk to you, take you to a cafe. There were many hospitalizations after the clinics closed. In Auburn Gresham, what we saw was people whose family were able to drop them off in the morning and pick them up in the evening because it was like caretakers. Those families now have nowhere to leave them, and we've literally seen them walking the street, not begging, just walking the street. Some have been incarcerated, some have been beaten up, severely beaten. Hospitalizations amongst the mentally ill and those being treated at the public health clinic has grown, although we had, and we had several deaths. One woman whose name is Helen Morley fought 4 years, and I fought with her. She told the mayor, if you close my clinic, I will die. She died 6 weeks later. The commissioner, Dr. Shakir, the commissioner for the Department of Health, said, oh, well, I heard she just died from a heart attack. Well, if you know anything about health, and stress can kill you. Stress can bring on a heart attack if you have health problems. The communities that were really hard hit, Woodlawn was hit very hard. In violence last summer, because what the mental health movement did was occupy, April 12th, we occupied the mental health clinic, and we stayed on the lot across from that mental health clinic from April until September. And at that time in September, Willie Cochran, the alderman, bulldozed our site when we were gone for a couple of days, and we came back to nothing being there. And we had chairs and tables, but let me say, we found that there was such disparity. There were people that were very hungry. We were able to feed them, but more than that, we found that the clinics had been a safe haven for so many people, and that safe haven was stolen from them. Now the city has been forced to pay more money because of the hospitalizations and the jails, but within 3 weeks of those first closures, this county spent over $280,000 in hospitalizations. In June, one of our consumers murdered his friend, his best friend. He was a schizophrenic that was off his medications. One of the things happened is that the city said that the transition was going to be good. We were consolidating. Consolidation means that you close this place and you take all those services and you put them here. They laid off over half the staff. There was no place to get medication, people didn't have money for medication. And then the private providers weren't doing accurate consultations so that people weren't being given the right medication. The mental health movement itself became very fragmented because we do have a lot of schizophrenics and bipolar people that are part of our movement, and without talk therapy and medication, things were very difficult. Right now, things have not settled. We just have absolutely no idea where most of the people that were literally put out of the mental health clinics. If you had public assistance, they urged you to go to a private provider. Last year, 3 of the city's private providers closed, went out of business, and those people were forced back into the public mental health clinics. But the challenge is then the city said, well, you have public assistance, so you're still gonna have to go somewhere else. We're gonna house you for a moment, but you're gonna have to go somewhere else. So it has created great turmoil and great trauma, and some violence has occurred due to the mental health. And Woodlawn was a community that was really hit very, very hard. And Willie Cochran, not only did he not support the mental health movement, Willie Cochran pushed for the clinics to be closed.
And just, Nadana, if we could stay on that point, the next question too, I think, picks up on some of these things you were saying already. But we've certainly talked about Cook County Jail is one of the biggest mental health providers around. I think it's one of the top 3 in the whole country. Would you talk a little bit about how mental health services interact with prisons and jails?
Well, they don't interact. And I say they don't interact because the services are not provided. And if nothing is there, then you can't interact with something that does not exist. People that are coming out of prison, and let me make sure you understand, there are some requirements, there are times when people are told that they have to have, part of the condition is that part of the condition of their release is that they have to go through this whole mental health program. Where are they going? And then if you're a man that has been in prison for any length of time, you're a black man, and the only person you can go to is a white woman, really? That's a problem. The other thing is that oftentimes, one, you're not capable of doing talk therapy with someone whose life you can't even imagine. 2, you're going to medicate them because it's easier to medicate someone because with medication you can control them. But with schizophrenia, it really turns your life upside down, and it makes you feel bad, it makes you feel unhealthy. Sometimes you can't hold thought. You don't walk right, you feel loopy all the time. So a lot of schizophrenics will go off their medication, and they don't have talk therapy, and their families sometimes don't know how to handle it. So they end up on the street and they end up in jail. So if we had mental health, because understand something, being black in America is the hardest thing. Walking down the street, I'm 58 years old, I had a cop 2 weeks ago stop me and say, oh, you fit the description of someone we're looking for. How do I deal with that? So imagine I am someone who's just gotten out of jail. And I was in jail for a long time, and I was in jail for a stupid reason that I didn't cause. But they decided I looked like someone. Now, part of the condition of my release is mental health therapy. Where do I find someone to go to? Because that's the other issue. When the public mental health clinics were open, if you didn't have money, you could go. Now that they're trying to close them all, where will people go? And the deal here is that when life has been crapping on you, you need to be able to talk it through. You do not necessarily need a pill, but those that need pills, the city clinics used to offer the pills. They used to have a program that gave assistance for medication. When the present administration came in, they got rid of that system, so that there are people that are taking drugs that are not medicated, they're self-medicating, and some of the drugs are considered illegal. And if they're caught with them, they go to jail. But the system failed them. They didn't do anything. The system failed them because why were they put in the position that they had to get drugs that were illegal when the ones that were legal you took away from them, and that was to save money? It didn't benefit anyone at all. No one benefited. Oh, not true. The alderman, the mayor, the governor, all of these pimps running the prison system, and some ministers. And I like the word pimp for administration, so.
Well, we chose employment just to give you like a history of how we basically decide what issues we want to attack. And FORCE is an initiative of the Community Renewal Society. I don't know if anybody's here familiar, but the Community Renewal Society is basically made up of I think it's up to 70 different churches. And what they do is each church has like a faith and action team. And what they do is basically they go out in their neighborhoods and they talk to people within their congregations, and they just listen to see what issues people think in their church that need to be addressed. And once all of this information is gathered, then it's given back to what they call the strategy team, and they go over the information and basically decide which issues that we can address. And that's how employment became an issue, because a lot of people that's returning home from prison go to a lot of churches, and one of the things that I know that when I went to church, I made known once I was out is that I needed a job. So, and you also get to hear some of the sad stories about how we're sent to prison and we're told, okay, go do your time, and once you're released, you know, now you're supposed to have a second chance at, you know, you were forgiven and here's your second chance at life, but it's not always that way. And it goes back to what my sister was talking about. If you're not mentally tough and prepared for what you have to deal with, you're going to end up going back to what you're comfortable with, which is whatever it was that, you know, led you to prison. So that's what brought about the issue of employment. And we approach it from two different perspectives. One being the legislative process. We try to look at a way that we can basically change the system and not just put a Band-Aid on the problem. We try to attack the root, which is why we created and tried to and pushed the ceiling bill, because the ceiling bill basically gives an individual an opportunity to at least get to the interview process to explain what happened in their situation, and also explain the things that they did to rehabilitate themselves while they were in prison and since they've been released. So we address it from a legislative process, and also from a practical standpoint of just like we chose Walgreens as a company to address, because we sent over 30 individuals into Walgreens to apply for a job. And these were people who, some have been out for over 10 years, they've been in prestigious colleges, they've done a whole lot since they've been released, and Walgreens wouldn't hire. So we basically pushed and pushed and pushed, and a couple of weeks ago, we were blessed to have a meeting with Walgreens at Tony Prepwinkle's office. And we're in the process now of building a relationship with Walgreens to hopefully give people opportunities to have these low-level jobs that basically, the criteria that Walgreens is asking for to work there, a lot of these individuals that are coming home from prison, they can basically do these jobs without a problem. So we just like to approach employment, because when you're coming home, it feels good to get up and go to work and be able to provide for your family. So, I mean, money is not everything, but it's a resource that can be used to provide. And without that resource, I know for me, I would feel less of a man if I couldn't provide for my family. And after doing 10 years in prison and doing all the things that I did to change my life, and to be rejected as many times as I was, it got frustrating for me. But I mean, I'm thankful because I was given the opportunity. I was hired by an individual who was a person with a record, and he's given me the opportunity to also hire other people with records. So, I mean, it worked out for me, but it doesn't work out that way for everybody. So that's basically what you know, why employment was such a big deal with us.
And then, like, in addition to employment, when you are working with people, what are the other issues that you're hearing about or that you experience?
Well, housing, and then I will go back to the mental health, because I had a counselor that I was seeing up until a couple of months ago because they cut a budget, and my probation officer told me that my services, that I no longer needed the services, so they was cutting it off. Where now I'm thankful because my counselor actually sees me for free. And I was actually able to bring my son Thursday to sit down with the counselor, and we did exactly what you said. We had talk therapy where my son was able to express what he went through for 10 years while I was in prison. And for me, it gave me an opportunity to learn more about my son, and also it gave us an opportunity to bond, to rebuild the bond, because I don't know what he went through while I was in prison. So I think the mental health part, as far as just reestablishing those relationships with your family members and your kids, that's important for me. And the other issue, like I said, is housing, because people look at you and say, well, you were in prison, you know, so I don't want to let you stay here. Or even as far as like the financial aid, a lot of people are denied financial aid because they have a record. So basically it's like you closing all the doors, but you're telling me don't go back and do crime. And this is what I hear, because I constantly go back to the halfway house that I was released from and stayed in 6 months, and I go back on purpose, because I go back always just listening, for one reason, to listen, to see what the needs are, and also to remind myself of where I would never want to go back to. So it works out, you know, but those are some of the issues that I really hear about.
Like I said, I'm part of the TAM's Year 10 committee. We helped shutter TAMs, isolation, super maximum security. Let me try to draw everybody a picture so you can understand what isolation does. No animal is meant to be isolated or put in a cage. You can see let me give you an example of lions and tigers in the zoo. If you got a lion or a tiger out there in that open space, they'll lay down, they'll relax. You put that lion and tiger in a cage and they're gonna prance back and forth. What is that? That's stress. Anytime you put individuals in a cage, that's stress. Now, whatever individual does to get there, I don't know. I know what I did. A minor nonsense. But isolation plays a major role in the mental health of an individual. That's what isolation does. And you'll notice now that although TAMS is shuttered, they can open it right back up and they don't care. You have every maximum security prison is isolation. Practically all of them are isolation, for the sole fact that you have the isolation units in there, which is a third of the maximum security prison. Then you have the lockdowns where nobody is going anywhere for months and months and months. This plays on a person's mind. This plays on a person's mental health. When you're in a supermax, it's even worse because they take everything. You got nothing. All you can do is lay down. And you heard of death by lethal injection? That's what you call death by deterioration. Because now, as you're laying in this little box, which is no bigger than that bathroom, you're laying in the bathroom 24 hours, 23 hours a day. Some people don't refuse to go out because they don't want to be bothered. So that's 24 hours a day. But if you're laying there and you're doing nothing, your bodily functions start shutting down. Your mind starts shutting down. That's why people in TAMs were mutilating themselves. They were for attention, to try to get out, to try to get somebody to notice this mess, this madness that's going on. Speaking on the mental health issue, they've closed down a lot of mental health facilities that were helping people and started putting mental health people in the prison system, because not only did it, like you say, it's an economic thing now. So you go to a supermax or isolation or a unit, and half the people there are crazy. They're throwing pieces on each other, smeared it all over themselves. They done went completely crazy. And this is what isolation would do for you. This is why we fought so hard. This is why we continue to fight, to stop this madness. You know, stop putting people in these cages forever and ever just because it's an economic thing, just because it's a money thing, it's because it's a billion-dollar industry. We have to find ways to correct this and correct it now, because if we don't, and correct it soon, because if we don't, we are in trouble. Our young kids are in trouble. Everything is in trouble because you're taking the men out of these young kids' lives, and then those young kids are going to be ruthless, way worse than what we kept up. Madmen, and you see it today. All the shootings and crazy stuff out there that come from us or the older people, such as myself, not being able to interact with your children, being in isolation, being locked up, being here and there, whatever it was for. And I guarantee you, just like when I was in towns, I was in towns, I said, man, y'all come and got me 20 years too late. I ain't done anything. You have a major population out there that they've been placed in these prisons and different other things, and they haven't committed any serious crimes. But it's, like I said, it's economical, billion-dollar industry. So they have to keep it going. But my thing is, like I said, I wanted to try to paint a picture of TAMS, Supermax, isolation, and the mental health of isolation. Like I said, if you went to one of those units in TAMS, you wouldn't be able to stay in there because it would be so nasty and filthy and loud and people screaming. And anytime you see a man that cut his genitals off, you got a problem. These people have a problem, we have a problem, and it's getting worse and worse. So let's see what we can do about it. Let's see, can we figure it out? What do you say?
For me, I was one of the first 50 that went to TAMS when it opened up. I did 9 years there. During the course of those 9 years, I've personally seen people carried out the cell that tried to commit suicide more than once. One guy stood on his concrete desk and just leaned forward, but his head bounced at first on concrete because he couldn't take it anymore. I've seen extraction teams come in and bring people out of cells with blood all over them because they was able to tear off a piece of the concrete that the cell is aligned with and use that sharp object. When it comes to mental health, I'm very much familiar with that. There was a couple of times in TAMS when I woke up in the middle of the night sweating and shaking like the son of a gun. It was my nerves. And I told myself, no, Daryl, you are not going to go crazy. And I got up and went to the sink and poured water all on my face. And I laid down on the concrete floor because it's cold. And I laid there until my nerves calmed down. Now, as supervisor for Ceasefire in Woodlawn, I've seen people on the streets, couples who have, one had the drugs, the other one didn't. The man would go off on the woman because of this here, and we would step in to intervene to take the man down the street so that he didn't hurt his woman, all because mentally he was unstable. since being home, I've had every job in the world I've done. I've let it be known that I don't ask the system to give me anything. I have education. I'm willing to mop floors. I've worked at KFC. I've worked at factories. You know, so I know that if you have the mental toughness that my brother just mentioned, and some kind of a support system, then you have a chance of making it. But a lot of people coming out of prison has no support system. When this lady sitting right there, Mary Jo, she got me involved in the TAMS 10 because of me having been in there. The passion that she has for trying to do the very best she can for those who are downtrodden. And because of her, my experience, I've taken that to a new level. Sometimes it's hard trying to help someone that may not want to help themselves because they've been placed in a cage like he just mentioned, where now all hope is gone. And the same way I've told legislators at Springfield and other places that everyone in TAMS is not doing natural life. At some point, some of those men will be coming home, and they will be coming to your community. And because of how they have been treated, once they themselves lash out and hurt or kill someone, the first thing people say, see, he wasn't no good, he shouldn't have never let him out in the first place. No, that's not the case. You created this monster because you did not try and understand his situation, his environment. You didn't try to give him the treatment he needed or she needed in order to help them become a little bit better. When you warehouse people in Stateville, Menard, Pontiac, and you give them no means of hope, you give them no type of training, what do you expect for them to become? They're going to become hostile. One thing TAMS taught me, Cap, and everybody else, and that is, we can't lash out right now. We got to suppress it because TAMS cowardly, the way that they had TAMS hooked up, that you wasn't going to hurt no officer there because all of your doors looked like somebody took some pinholes and placed in your door. You know, that's your cell door. And this was by design so that you couldn't reach out to touch no officer. And the officers are very arrogant down in TAMS because they know they can get away with that and that you can't hurt them. You know, so they will in fact aggravate you. You know, now you already in a cage. You're already mentally having to deal with being locked up 24/24. TAMS had a policy that you get a ticket, they take away your TV. Now for the next 6 months, you sit in a cell with nothing. And if you get a major ticket for a year, then it's going to take a year and a half before you get your TV or radio back. Meanwhile, what do you do? Nothing. Nothing. With me, I devise all kinds of things. The mind is, that commercial where they say the mind is a terrible thing to waste. You know, I learned that in TAMS because I had to devise ways to keep me sane. You know, every day was workout day. Saturday night was dedicated to me singing every Dusty song I ever knew in my life. You know, Sunday was dedicated to me singing church songs. As a child, my mother took me to church every Sunday. I'm the baby of the family. But here again, mental health, it's hand in hand with living every day because depending on your mental health determines what you're going to do that day, how successful or non-successful you're going to be. Now, as supervisor for ceasefire in Woodlawn, and I'm like you myself, that crazy mother Cochran, you know, he didn't support us neither. And I didn't vote for him, you know, and I don't support that son of a gun neither because he's nothing but a glorified politician that likes to get in everybody's pocket. you know, but when it comes down to being out there on the front line to help the community, he's nowhere. You know, we do what we can every day. It's a struggle, you know, so when I was told about this particular panel, then when it comes to anything dealing with mental, you know, Daryl Cannon is very much in tune with that. Keep in mind that I'm a man that was physically tortured by John Bird's handpicked men, the same ones that the federal prosecutor now has let the term run out for prosecuting them. You know, I know what it feels like to have a shotgun placed in my mouth, my chipped tooth, and they have me in an isolated area, and they telling me the words of nigger, you gonna tell us what we want to hear, and then pulling the trigger. Now you imagine that in an isolated area. I had electric calopride stuck to my genitals. I did everything humanly possible with the help of God to keep them going crazy, you know, because of what I've been through. I did 24 years for a murder they know I didn't commit. But they said Daryl Cannon had knowledge who possibly did it, you know, and if so, we're going to bring it out of him. Well, you know, they did. And I did 24 years before, and the state attorney's office has never apologized to me. You know, so mentally, I deal. I deal with that not so much because of what happened, but because of the fact that during the 24 years, my mother died, my father died, my son died, and a host of nieces and nephews all died while I'm in prison for nothing. And it doesn't hurt, I just get mad. You know, so if you see me get emotional, it's the anger in me, what helps me. I'm often asked, why don't I see? Why don't I seek help from a psychiatrist? And I respond, how can a psychiatrist help me with the death of my mother, my father, my son, and all my other loved ones that the prison system refused to let me go back to see them one more time? Now, what can another human being tell me to relieve that pain? Nothing. Nothing. You know, so please know that when it comes to the middle part of it, even though all of this happened over a 24-year period of time, it's still just as fresh to me today as it was back then. I still have nothing but the hatred for the 3 white detectives that tortured me, that came in court, stood before the judge and said, I swear to tell the truth. The judicial system knew that Daryl Cannon was tortured. They turned a blind eye. So you see, you're looking at a man that, by rights, I should be so crazy that I should have committed mayhem on a bunch of people once I got my freedom. You know, but I'm thankful to God that I'm sane enough to know that that's not going to bring them back. That's not going to change what happened to me. Instead, everyone here plays a significant role in trying to help those that's mentally off balance, off keel for various reasons. And because of this, we all have a role to play. That's why I chose ceasefire for my job. And look what happened to me in ceasefire. I ended up getting my damn job, bro. you know, but here again, I'm doing what I need to do and it helps me mentally. But there are those who are less fortunate that doesn't have such options to be able to do that. So yes, we all need to play a significant role in doing what we can to change it. And I've often said that some of these she called them pimps, which they are, you know, because they're getting money for free, you know, off of us, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And we need, the same way that we protest about closing things up, we need to protest again about people being educated enough to put people in office who's going to make a serious difference. And that's what I have to say concerning that.
Thank you all. I mean, such incredibly powerful experiences, and I think we're all incredibly humbled and honored for you to share them with us. And I think that note that you ended on about what can we do is a real pressing question that I know everyone here is really committed to as well. And I was wondering if all of you, since you are doing this work every day, if you could talk about what you think are the most strategic ways to change these really harmful conditions that you've been talking about, and any specific examples of work in Chicago that you might want to highlight would be really helpful, I think, to everyone here too.
Piggybacking on what he said, education is the most important thing. A lot of times people say things that they don't understand, that they don't know about. Prison is what it is. But when you judge a person by what you see in a television show, that becomes a problem. Because you don't understand that's a human being, that it's not an actor. And right now you're talking to someone who is living and trying to live next door to you. And oftentimes people that are just coming out of prison are not the people that are going to attack you first. And that becomes a problem because we are told that the most violent people are the people that are just coming out of prison. That is not true. What the problem is that oftentimes people that are coming out of prison are unduly provoked, unnecessarily provoked. And if you're driving while breathing black and you are pulled over and Lord have just being released, they're going to find a way somehow to penalize you for getting out. That becomes another mental health issue. So towards that, because STOP, the organization that I work with, we're starting Heal Chicago campaigns because a lot of what has happened in Chicago has been because people are not well. Mentally, physically, there are a lot of people that are not well because of mental health that has brought on physical illness, especially in the poor communities, especially African American communities where we have food deserts, where you can't find fresh fruits and vegetables, and the soil is so degraded that the foods that you try and grow, it's unhealthy. So Healing Chicago, we're asking people to come together and to talk about what would it take to heal. Do you need to be educated about what does an alderman really do? Because I still don't know. But I know that I've been put out of Willie Cochran's office when 26 of us went and we wanted to talk about mental health in the Woodlawn area. And he decided that he didn't have to talk to us, so he put us out. Then he threatened to call the police, and I had already been arrested from occupying the clinic. And when you talk about, in 2012, I was sexually assaulted by a cop in front of all the police department, and still investigating it is something that is not happening. They have a female captain who is investigating the male captain who did the assault. And so no charges have been filed. My alderman, which is another pimp, said it's not his problem, take it to the police. Willie Cochran, you shouldn't have been there. The court system, well, you committed a crime, it was violent. No, he put his hand on my crotch, he grabbed my breast, my butt, and all the police department watched it. and the only thing I could do was stand there because I knew I would be killed.
Yes, ma'am.
I still have issues dealing with that, and that was last year, more than a year ago. So how do I do that? I'm 59 this year, I'll be 59. How do I deal with that? That was not about sex, that was about the violence. Now that happened to me. But think about if I had just gotten out of prison.
Mm.
And if I was 20 years old and real good looking, the cop would have taken it further. He would have gotten away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's happening every single day. That's why the Heal Chicago committees become so important, because sexual assault goes on every single day. And I'm not talking about date rape.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the cops that are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about the system that is doing it. So people help, block clubs, church committees, whatever. Chicago needs to heal. Chicago is not broke. We can't possibly be broke because all of us pay into the TIF. And the TIF has $15 million to give to a $1 billion corporation like Walmart to build another mega store where people who live in that community will have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to be able to pay the rent, while Walmart is pimping us and they're letting them. So learning what your rights are, and we really need to find out what our legislators' jobs are, what they're supposed to do, and then hold them to the task.
Mm-hmm.
We need to not just register to vote, but to actually show up and vote. And if we know someone that is not voting, we need to invite them, like have a voting party, like everybody goes to vote and then someone brings a picnic lunch, because everybody can't afford to go to lunch. But if it takes bribing people to vote, that's what the politicians do. But we have to make sure, daily, our mayor was in office when Burge was doing what he was doing.
Yes, ma'am.
And no one talks about Daley. His wife, and he and his wife have buildings named after them. But the former mayor was a part of the system that supported Burge and allowed Burge, encouraged Burge to do what he did.
Yes, ma'am.
All that time. He encouraged Burge. And people voted for him religiously. So knowing job titles, knowing the function of job titles, voting for, voting against, knowing who the judges are. Because judges have been skirting forever.
Oh, yeah.
And when we went to court, the 4 people that occupied the mental health clinic, the judge 1 refused to pronounce my name correctly. And 2, she told me I was violent even though I was sexually assaulted by the cop. I was violent because all I did was say, the people in Chicago need to have public mental health. People will die. So I've got some literature about the Heal Chicago committees, and I'd like everyone to take time to read about it and consider joining a Heal Chicago committee, starting a Heal Chicago committee. And even if you don't do that, make sure that someone you know is voting, and make sure if they can't get to the voting place, make sure you find a way of them getting there. Because we have thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people are registered to vote. That really isn't the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that people are not showing up. They're not showing up because people don't like who's running. But we need to be able to do what's going to keep us healthy. And this city isn't broke. This country isn't broke. Because there are more millionaires every day. And the millionaires are millionaires on our backs.
This is, like I said, coming out of the penal system and the supermax was my passion to do something about the critical conditions of the prison system. But my passion today is to, like I say, we know the problem. We know the solution to the problem. And the solution to the problem is get to the root of the problem. But to go deeper than the root of the problem, let's get to the seed. What is the seed? The seed is our children out here in these streets. If we don't get to the seed and start saving our children, we in a world of trouble. So this is my issue or my passion or my thing that I want to work with. Let me tell you what happened. Let me give you an example. I went into a school once. I was getting paid to go to the school and do speeches. I went to a grade school and you see the little kid, the teacher was standing up there, sitting there. They was throwing stuff at her and acting crazy and cursing. As I sit in the back of the room, and I'm looking at these little 10, 11, 12-year-old kids acting so stupid. So I got up. And when I got up, I give it to them. Listen. Look at me. You acting crazy don't lead you to two things. The penitentiary or the graveyard. So when I got through with them, you can hear a pin drop. All these children need is somebody to talk to them. Somebody with some kind of intelligence to guide them the right way. When I left out of them young kids stood up and gave me a standing ovation. And they kept telling me, come back, come back, come back. And I went back a few times to help some you can't help. But like I said, we have people like myself and Daryl that we know what to do. We just don't have the resources to do it with. I have maybe 53 cents to get some gas in my car to get home. Because the people with the resources would push us to the side because now, like I said, we know the solution to the problem. We know what the problem is. So they're going to try to kick us to the curb, kick us down, keep us down. And that's a systematic problem going on in these communities today. Crime in the city of Chicago would be cut in half and then be cut again and again and again if we had people that could speak to these children, relate to them, identify with them, and lift them up. Nobody wants to support us. We can't. So it's hard. But we keep struggling. We keep fighting. I can't give up. Just like we did at Towns. I wasn't giving up. When they shuttered this thing for a little, whatever little time they're gonna shut it for. I said, Lord, this is so great. So, like I said, what we have to do now is take individual minds, individual bodies, whatever you can do it. Do whatever you can do to. Bring it out, polish it off, make it shine, and everybody come together and say, okay, this is what we can do. Okay.
For me, the first time I ever voted in my life was when I came home from prison and I voted for Barack. First time in my life, black president. Now, I was a skeptic. I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think that man was going to make it in the White House because of the color of his skin. Mary Jo, on her, you know, she's always felt that people power would make a difference and shut Tams down. I told her, Mary Jo, they're not going to shut Tams down because it's all about economics. Southern Illinois needed the money. Tams provided the money. When Mary Jo and all of us went down there to a legislative hearing in Southern Illinois, the politicians that we went before, the deck was stacked against us. They were all in favor of Tams remaining right there. It was no more than what, maybe 20 of us? 15, maybe. 50 of us?
We didn't all speak.
Oh, I was gonna say, I didn't think it was 50 of us, but you know, the guards, everybody else, it was a huge auditorium. They packed the auditorium. Southern Illinois packed it, and they had all their little t-shirts don't close our prison. You know, all this old kind of craziness. And again, as fate would have it, me voting for a black president, we got it. Me going with her down there to testify, they closed Sam's. You know, so from then on, my mindset is that, hey, ain't no mountain too high enough. You know, people power
Yes.
plays the significant role. People power is the engine that drives the car. So education here among all of us about what we've been through, what we're doing, and what we need to do can play the role that would change things. My sister, I really did not know the full status or impact about the mental health places closing, mainly because I was concentrating on stopping the violence, you know, stopping so many youngsters from dying, you know, and I really didn't look at that like I should have, you know, but I'm here to tell you now, before witnesses, if you live in Woodlawn, please know that you can call on ceasefire at any time. You know, I'm going to give you my information before we leave here, and anything we can do to help you with this cause, because the mindset does play the role in what happens in our community. I asked a youngster one day, why do you hate the other group? I just hate them. That was his response. I just hate them. Not because they don't did anything, because they don't belong to the same group he belongs to. Now this is crazy. This is crazy. No, I couldn't believe it, but this is what we deal with every day. The Fraternal Order of Police made a statement when the superintendent said that he was going to have ground officers patrolling on foot. The Fraternal Order of Police said that's dangerous. Our police officers don't need to be on foot. So this shows you what they care about us. You know, they locked up one of my guys because they say he didn't move fast enough. He was in a hot spot. Now he's got his orange on, ceasefire, everything else. They do not want us. The commander for 3rd District in Woodlawn does not like ceasefire because we make a significant difference in what's going on, and they don't want that. Far as they're concerned, the police should be doing that. But if the police should be doing that, and you got the Fraternal Order of Police saying that police should be on the streets walking, then who in the Sam heck is going to do it? You know, we're the ones that down the side streets, making sure that where Group A and Group B may be congregating, we're the ones there saying, look, there is a better way to life other than smoking your blunts and drinking whatever you're drinking and packing a gun. You know, we just had a 14-year-old got busted with not one gun, but 2. Now what does Sam heck do a 14-year-old have to have guns on him for? The mindset, mentally, the mindset, the home environment, all these things play a significant role. And we at Woodlawn Ceasefire are now taking training for domestic abuse. Now our primary job is to try and stop violence before it happens. But now we're taking on this mental training because it's very significant, you know, in us trying to make a difference not only with the youth but with grown-ups as well. You know, it's a tedious task, but I've always said if I can do 9 years in town, ain't nothing I can't conquer. You know, because I'm telling you, towns would drive you crazy. Keep in mind that psychiatrists played a major role in constructing towns. And they constructed it with the mindset that we're going to break them mentally and physically.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of people were in fact broken. At nighttime, when it was very quiet, you could hear people in the other cells crying. You know, because of this barbaric treatment. And see, you know, me, You know, I'm the type that I get mad quick. You know, maybe it's because of everything I've been through, but I'm thankful to God that I'm able to channel it in the right way. You know, because they would love for me to go out there and do something stupid to some innocent people. And then they say, yeah, see, Daryl Cannon was the bad seed all the time. I tell people quick that my mother and father, all of my siblings, we had the very best. I ain't never heard I think I heard my mama cuss one time in my entire life when she was alive. She ran the house. I often tell people that the ladies in my house ran. My mother and my grandmama, they ran, you know, and I think their spirit is what's in me because I'm the baby. And that's why I'm dogmatic about not allowing the system to break me in no shape, form, or fashion. You know, and I'm glad that I wasn't there when that sister got groped like she did. And believe me, she's not lying, because the police can be very arrogant. Not all of them, but some of them can be. We got a deadhead, you know, and I'm not a racist, but we have a deadhead Negro officer in our beat. And just 2 days ago, he come through in a paddy wagon, and he picked out people and put them in the wagon and took them down to the station to a lineup. Just picked them out. But maybe you might have been involved, maybe you might have been involved. So what I've done is that I've got little cards. This is from the Defense Foundation. Yes, ma'am. And so now, this evening, all of my people are going to pass out cards to everyone in our neighborhood, letting them know what your rights are. You know, and somebody spoke on that about knowing your rights. Yes, this is it. Yeah, this is it right here. First Defense League, you know. So now, I got about 100 G's at my office right now that we will be passing out this evening, and we're going to start having seminars every week at my office to educate the community on what your rights are concerning the police, because the police is telling us that they don't want ceasefire in the hot spots. So wait a minute, we're supposed to be in the hot spots to deteriorate crime. So I'm constantly having to retweet with my group to keep them from getting locked up, because they feel frustrated that they can't do their job properly in helping the community. You know, so once again, mentally, if you're not up to the task, then you're going to fall short each and every time. So it's imperative that all of us here continue to understand, continue to grow, continue to speak out and be as strong as we can, because our future and our children's future on the line. So what we do or don't do will determine what our future will be like. So please keep that in mind. And this man here, I mean, I knew Cap when he didn't have his gut. I knew him when this man played ball, everything else. We was in the penitentiary. We was healthy as all outdoors.
Really? Oh.
Healthy as all outdoors. Do you know that they found arsenic in my liver while in prison? Arsenic in my liver. I had to have a liver biopsy. I had to have special medication that I finally got. At first they was giving me generics, but praise be to God that I was able to get my freedom in time enough to go and see a doctor on the street and get the proper treatment to help me with the arsenic that was in my liver. This comes from being in prison. In prison, they don't give a flying duck about your health. I'm true.
No.
You know, in town, they so barbaric that when we go to sick call, we already handcuffed behind our back with shackles on. If they got to draw blood, they do not take a handcuff off. Instead, the doctor come behind you, and while you still handcuffed, he'll find a vein somewhere and draw blood. Now, mentally, how do you deal with that? And this butcher that they had for a doctor, he was an animal doctor.
The horse.
The Borky or whatever his name is. He was a animal doctor. I had a literally cyst on my back. Do you know that he didn't put no numbness on there? That chump just simply took the scalp and bam, hit it. You know, now, you know, pain shot to my brain so hard that I was seeing stars. But ain't nothing I can do because I'm cuffed behind my back and I got leg shackles on. These are the conditions that existed in towns. These are the conditions that are ripe to cause you to go totally berserk mentally, but it sits dormant because you know you can't do nothing with your cuffs behind your back and leg shackles on, but ever you get a chance, you're gonna hurt somebody. You're gonna hurt somebody because they're continuously hurting you. So mental health plays a major role in what we do. And the politicians know that. And that's another reason why they're closing up so many mental institutions, because they rather say that crime is running rapid because people just are lawless. So what do? You give them some more money and they up their salaries even more. Meanwhile, the community continues to suffer. So please know that this forum here is very significant. It's significant for education, it's significant for support, it's significant to pool new ideas. So everything that all of us are saying, some of you have thought about, but now you can do something about it, you know, by saying, okay, here's step one on what we're going to do. Here's step two if step one don't work. Always have a backup plan for every plan. Mary Jo taught me that. Hey, look, she always had a plan for Tam. She wasn't taking no for an answer. You know, and because of her, she's made me even better and even stronger. You know, her and a few others that are significant and passionate about trying to help the community. So I'm on board. You know,
So
you can count me in.
With just under a half hour left, I want to make sure there's time for
Oh,
discussion
yes.
too.
Yeah.
But Marlon, I don't know if there's any reflections you want to share, maybe briefly on effective strategies here in Chicago that might be instructive in terms of changing these conditions.
Well, I can say this real quick. When I was in prison and during the early part of my prison sentence, I was standing in the cafeteria line, and it was a fight broke out, and all of the officers on the compound ran towards this fight, and they cleared the yard, and there was 1,500 people, men on this compound, and I saw 200 officers basically control this compound. And my mentor, he asked me a question. He said, "What did you just see?" I said, "I saw a bunch of officers running to a fight to break it up." And he said, "No." He said that there's power in unity. And he said because 200 men were unified together, they were able to control 1,500. So I say that to say that I saw this year, I saw 10 politicians in a church that we had where 700 people showed up to basically put pressure on these legislators to say, are you going to support our platform? Because we the ones that put you in office.
Yeah.
And we pressured them into saying yes. And not only did they get away with just saying yes, we continually hold them accountable for what they said yes to. And a lot of those same politicians were the ones that helped us get this ceiling bill passed. So I say, just like my brother said, if we continue to come together like this and to continue to walk in unity, we can create the power to create change.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So let's open it up. Questions, comments?
Come on now.
This is the fun part.
This is
right
not a quiet group, so.
Yeah.
They constantly say they want to talk.
I mean, personally, I know I'm just taking it in, so it's like I'm digesting. Like
A lot of.
honestly, I'm honored that y'all share. I mean, I know Chad said that already, but just listening to y'all talk, I'm just thinking about my brother who's in jail, locked up for 20 years already, and then more time he has to serve for some petty offense. I don't know what. I don't even know. And it's just, I don't know. It's just so deeply personal in that way, but not because I'm not the one experiencing it. But at the same time, just like
Yes,
I don't have anything intellectual to say. Just it's important to have these accounts and have them close to my heart to know how that's guiding what I do every day.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am?
I know that the work that you guys do with TAMS was so critical and in using the state legislature in the case of prisons are the people that actually hold keys, right? So it seems like it's a much better to interface with them. But I was just wondering, like, are there other ways that you guys see organizing and doing work that doesn't, like, is the state always this in focus of changing, or are there other kinds of change? Are there other kinds of change that don't necessarily have to do with legislative?
Well, for me, it's unfortunate, but just about any and everything leads back to legislators. Anything you try to do in the community leads back to legislators, whether it's the alderman or whomever. Because nowadays, everything is about the almighty dollar. You need a dollar to do something. Even when you come together for a meeting, sometimes the place where you have a meeting at, you have to pay, in order to be there. Literature that you may want to distribute to people on the streets, you have to pay to have the literature distributed out there on the streets, to be printed up. Legislators could, in fact, do more than what they're doing to help the grassroots organizations who are legitimately trying to make a difference in the community. So, again, for me, organizing, education, and then holding the politicians, like my brothers say, accountable, and letting them know that, hey, look, we are of age to vote. No matter if it starts raining, we're going to take the umbrella and we're going to vote. So if you want to still be in there, then do what you've been claiming you wanted to do when you ran for office.
Let me add something on that. And we keep reporting back to Laura Joe. Laura Joe showed me, and there are a few other people that's on the TAMS here to commit, that you have to keep hitting at these politicians and pushing them and keep it in their face.
Yes.
In their face.
Yes.
And I have to laugh when I see there's a lot of politicians in Springfield. They would say, I don't like this one.
Yes.
They don't like her. They don't like her.
Because she ain't taking no for an ounce.
She ain't taking it.
And it's beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's why anytime she called me and said, come on, let's get on the bus and go to Springfield. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Where do I meet the bus at? And Lord, did you want to say something? You need to say something.
Yeah, please say something.
One of the rules of our campaign was if we have these guys to talk, let them talk. So I'll just stick with that.
Hey, it's a blessing. So anyone else?
Cheers.
Oh.
Can you speak about what it is about the strategy that was used to close TAMS and why did that work? So many people are doing so many different things and hitting brick walls and not being successful. What was it about that?
Well, first of all, TAMS made a mistake. They locked up too many people from the community. Not downstate Illinois, but inner Chicago. TAMS was not anticipating that people like Mary Jo and others would get involved and stay involved in order to get TAMS shut down. Once again, we go back to people power. When you got a cross section of people, whether it be white, Hispanic, black, when a pool of people come together like this here, it's no longer open hand, it's now a fist. And we know that an open hand can slap the living daylights out you, but a fist can knock you out. And that's what we formed, a fist. And then for me and Cap and a few others that was in TAMS to join in with them and say that, look, we were there. They can't lie to us and say, oh, no. We're very humane in how we treat you alive. we were there.
Let me say something real quick. TAMS made a mistake. They made a mistake by putting people like myself and Daryl and different other people. We were leaders in the community. We were the men that could think. And they said, we're going to crush it. And they did the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They put us together, and like you said, and we talked and we discussed. We did signs in the windows.
Yeah.
You know, we wrote with our hands to communicate. But the key thing was this. We, like you say, you're going to have to come back to the community sooner or later. Sooner or later, you're going to be back introduced to the community.
Yeah.
So we're just blessed to be intelligent enough to say we're going to go this route, going to move this way, we're going to try to educate different people, different panels, different communities, different focus groups to stay focused, stay in the fight, and let's fight.
Yeah.
I had a question about, so you know, the new study just came out about the sexual assaults that are going on against the kids in the youth prisons in Illinois, where they found that 15% of the kids said they've been sexually assaulted by staff people at the prisons. And they're saying that they're going to have a hearing on July 30th. The politicians are going to have a hearing, and they're going to bring in the folks from the Youth Prison Administration to address this issue. Can you guys speak to kind of like the climate in prison, how the staff works to kind of how these assaults can happen against children who are locked up? I don't know if you've heard about it, but that's what's happening. That's something we're trying to work around to really find a way to hold the prison administration accountable for these assaults on children that are happening in our prisons that they're creating for specifically juveniles.
Let me say this. It's just like the Army and Navy thing, this sexual assaults that are jumping now. You cannot have authority, people in authoritative positions, to actually investigate themselves or prosecute themselves. It's not going to happen. Same way with the penal system. The kids, authority, they're afraid. They're afraid to speak out. They're intimidated. And those authoritative figures are not, I guarantee you, they're not going to get anything out of it. Because for the simple fact that now one hand protects the other one, that union ain't going to let you do this. Different other things.
And
So,
everything is a warehouse now. Even the Children's Youth Commission, it's a warehouse. They're swamped with youngsters coming in like never before. The same way with the prison system. So you're going to have sexual assaults, whether it be in adult prisons or whether it be in youth commission. It's unfortunate, but as long as you have this mentality, lock up. You know, we're going to be faced with this here. I've always said that, you know, I'm in America. I understand that we have to have a prison system, you know, unfortunately. But here again, for some of the crimes of people being sent to prison for, you can work with them a better way. And children mimic what adults do. And nowadays, you can no longer discipline your children like when I was not coming up. When I was coming up, any grown up in my neighborhood could slap me upside the head or anything else and see me doing wrong. But nowadays, it's not, quote, fashionable to do such things. And now they're told children, if your parents try and discipline you, here's the hotline you call, and we'll come and lock them up. You know, so some parents that want to do the right thing cannot do the right thing, and the children sometimes are so smart now, they understand this. So they venture out and do whatever they choose to do, but as soon as they get locked up, they're always calling for mama. You're going to always call for mama, but unfortunately, mama can't help you sometimes. The prison system is not designed anymore for rehabilitation. It's only incarceration. You know, that's it. And so, as it would be, we're going to have nightmares about what goes on in prison. And the guards that are there, they don't give a flying duck. They're only there to do them 8 hours, get their pay, and go home. They're not taking them rounds, and the children and youth mission, they're supposed to make continuous rounds the same way they make an adult prison. Guards come in and sit down, and that's it. You know, so it's a problem. Again, it goes right back to who you elect. Those people that you elect are the ones that are appointing the superintendents, wardens, and all of that in the adult prisons and the youth commissions as well. So once again, everything depends on who you elect.
Somebody else had a question on this side.
That lady right there.
Yeah.
I was wondering if any of you have any ideas about what educators who don't have experience with, like who haven't been in prison themselves or haven't been like around that kind of situation, like what would you have hoped that they could have done for your children, or how could they have spoken or led them to resources, or like what any ideas that things that you wish could have been there for your children?
Anybody?
Education.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Education.
As far as basically, what can teachers do?
Teachers,
Yes.
I think teachers need to start bringing people like Cap. I go to schools on a regular basis, grade schools, high schools, colleges, and the first thing I tell a class is that I am not here to insult your intelligence. You know right from wrong. The only thing I'm here to do is say you have choices. The choices you make today are going to affect you tomorrow. And then I tell them about my experiences of people that I know, and what happened to them. And then I leave it with the children as well as the young adults. Now you make the decision. You want to get on the streets? One or two things are going to happen. You're going to die, or you're going to go to prison. And I leave it like that. You know, children need plain talk spoken to them nowadays. Instead of, well, now this may be too graphic for them. Nothing is too graphic. Nothing. You know, you got people on the radio using the B word, the F word. These videos are out. All these children know all the lyrics to all this here, so nothing is too graphic. Sometimes you need to bring pictures in to show them pictures. Well, look, this little boy here was only 15 years old. Where's his head at? Splattered. You know, this little girl here was nothing but 14 years old. Look at her. She's been multiply raped. You know, sometimes pictures can say 1,000 words. Teachers are not allowed to really stretch out with their classes, you know, for restraints. They don't want the parents to say, well, look, you showed my child a picture of a dead body. I didn't give you permission to do so, and et cetera, et cetera. When I grew up, teachers had all the authority they needed. If I got out of line in school, I had a teacher named Miss Capsule. She had the thickest ruler I ever seen in my life. And when I got out of pocket, Daryl, which hand? I said, give me the left hand, you know, because I'm right-handed. And when she got through with my hands, with that ruler, it was, I'm talking about totally red. And I couldn't go home and say, Mama, look what the teacher did. Because if I did that, then that means I did something wrong. And then my mama was going to say, get out them clothes. I'm not whooping no clothes.
I got you.
You know, and that was a beautiful education for me. My parents had never heard me use a word of profanity. My parents had never seen me high or anything else because I respected and loved them just that much. And these old style practices fell by the wayside. Teachers, for the most part, say, well, look, I'm gonna do what I can to educate you, but what I want to do, I can't because I may be facing a lawsuit or dismissal.
And see, that key to your question is, what do teachers want to do? How do they want to do it? Can they do it? You know, and like you said, if the teachers are not able to teach and educate, because that's what it is, teach and educate, you know,
Focus calls sometimes.
you lose your children. You lost your children. So you must now try to choose good instructors, good teachers. Weed out that foolishness. Weed out this riffraff. Weed out somebody that's want to come and get a check.
Hmm.
And find some teachers that are really dedicated and say, I'm going to stand behind you 100%. That's where the parents and you have PTA, parent teachers. When you got a whole group of parents that know this teacher, respect this teacher, they're not going to let nothing happen to that teacher. Period.
So I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions.
I was just, so sort of like doing legislation change, I was wondering, what, if any, are the ways that you are could be reaching out to communities that don't see how the prison system affects them in their lives, or don't agree with necessarily the position. Like, how does the message get out there? Because like, we're all kind of on the same page here. But how do you confront the people that either don't agree with you or don't see it being something that's important to them?
By when you leave here, you go back and talk to your friend, get on the phone, talk to their friend. Word of mouth is fantastic. So if everyone here has learned something, everyone here want to make a significant difference, then you go back and talk to your friend and tell your friend to talk to their friend, and it goes on and on and on and on. That is the best way, because a lot of people don't want to read, don't want to take the time to read, or don't have the time to read, but everybody talks. So for me, talking would be the best way.
I think too, with the organization that I've been with, what they do is they would send me out to a church like in Evanston, where I could speak to people of different ethnic backgrounds and basically just share my story. And after that, it would be a follow-up. I've been to participated in a lot of book clubs by Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow. And I've sat in a lot of these like readings, and they would just ask questions because people really want to know, and a lot of times they might not have someone they can ask questions to. So I mean, I've learned a lot from just sitting in a lot of these book clubs, and also I think that's very helpful as far as educating a person on what they've heard and what's factual.
Oh yeah.
Because that's two different things.
Yes, sir.
I think people need to be taught that human behavior is all alike.
Mm-hmm.
That because I am an African American, I am not going to commit a crime just based on. Because I'm an African American woman, I'm not so highly sexual that prostitution becomes something natural for me. People must be able to be taught that human behavior is across the line.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
fact that these men were able to survive the way they did is unbelievable. But if you cut me, okay, cliche, I'm going to bleed.
Mm-hmm.
Do not look to see that, and children must be taught at an early age, in public schools, in churches, in the home, that all people are the same. That's why we have people that grow up to believe that African Americans are not as intelligent, African Americans would be better in the kitchen, would be better at sports, will most likely commit a crime. Human beings are human beings. And because we have the differences in what is supposed to be a one world culture, we have these people that are put in prison and being forced to survive something that they shouldn't have had to. That their children are marked and earmarked. That their women are marked. It is that the American culture and the world culture has never looked at African Americans just, I look at you as I look at me. And if you are my friend, a friend is your needs answered. Khalil Gibran. When someone said in the book, tell me what is a friend is your needs answered. If I look at you as a friend, then I'm going to think about how I would be affected before I do something to you. And because this culture never looks at African Americans as equal. And that's what it really is all about. At the end of the day, it's about me seeing you as I see me and vice versa. And I know if you step on my blue suede shoes, it's gonna hurt my feelings and mess my shoes up. And it will do the same to you. How would you feel? And once we start looking at one another as how would I feel, then things change. And little children, a woman called me yesterday, a good example, she likes to say she's my friend, but she isn't. She saw a piece of furniture in the neighborhood in Hyde Park, and she says, well, I don't know if it has bed bugs, but I thought you might want it. I wouldn't take it in my house, but I'm not sure. I hung up. I don't curse people out, but she was so over the line offensive. It might have bed bugs, but you might want it. You know? She didn't see me. She called me a friend, but she didn't see us as equals. So she could not be my friend. And that's the world at large. That's why we're here, and the things that have happened to us happened. Daley was mayor, and was mayor for over 20 years, and a whole bunch of us, I didn't vote for him, hey, but a whole bunch of black folks voted for him.
Yes, ma'am.
And let him get away with what Burge did, because he was Burge's boss.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, we're just out of time, so we're gonna need to wrap up for now. Thank you so much for sharing such powerful experiences.